What's happening, everyone? And welcome to Systems Lab Live. I'm excited to be with you all here tonight for another engaging edition of this live stream. So, I've been absent for the past couple of weeks, just getting some tech stuff upgraded. Truth be told, the old laptop just went bye-bye. And so we just had to recalibrate, re-strategize. And, now we're here. So I'm excited because we're going to be talking tonight all things AI and policy. So I like this because, and also a couple of things, I want to make sure that you all are sharing this live stream with about 4 to 5 of your favorite project managers. Make sure that they know what's going on. Make sure that they are tuning in. And let me tell you something. Here's an interesting topic that we're going to be talking about here tonight. We're going to be going from the users of AI to those that set the policy to protect our work. Okay, let me break that down for you because I have some statistics I want to share with you. 72% of project managers say AI is very or extremely likely to change their roles. So many of us know that in our project management role, we've been hearing a lot about AI for the past few years. And one of the things that we are looking at is like, okay, is AI going to take over our job? Are they just going to take over the work that we are doing? And the answer is no, not at all. AI will not do such a thing because as project managers, we're not just the executors. We are the leaders. We are the strategists. And it is our job to look at how we can use technology in a really smart way that we can be efficient and we can be able to get the work done so that we're also not burned out, but also so that we can do excellent work. So AI, we feel that it's going to change our roles. It's going to change how we approach work. And I think that's important for us to understand. 22% of project managers say AI tools are deployed in their organizations are in use today. Now, this was from one of my favorite platforms, Capterra. They do all sorts of device technology reviews and whatnot. And so for me, I said to myself, only 22%, only 22%. But I find that to be not necessarily surprising, to be quite honest, because I'm still hearing to this day that project managers and even companies that they are in the early stages of implementing AI. Now, it depends on what sector you're in. If you're in the tech sector, you probably are already utilizing tools already, but I'd be interested in, maybe that's a little research project for myself, which is in which sectors is AI more popular? So is it healthcare? Is it education? What about the nonprofit industry? I know in the creators, what do you call the creators economy? We know that AI is quite popular. So it's something to think about. Now, another statistic that I thought was really, really good to think about. So 29% of project professionals say they don't feel ready for the adoption of AI tools. Only 9% say they are extremely ready. So what does this really say? To be honest, all these stats, right? I think this is what we know to be true so far. AI is here to stay. We know that AI is going to change the way project managers and operational professionals do their work. We know that we know that companies are adopting AI to help with work efficiency, but there seems to still be tension between how do we go about implementing AI and utilizing it within an organization. And there's one thing that I think that project managers should really be, helping out with, and they should actually be thinking more about, which is how do we develop AI policy for our team, for our businesses, and for our company. So what does that mean, developing AI policy? What we're talking about is the ways in which we use AI ethically so that we can be able to protect the integrity of our work. We're using ChatGPT, ClickUp Brain, Miro Assist. What else are we using out here? Put in the chat. What are all of y'all utilizing in this day and time? What y'all are you utilizing? I would love to know in the chat, what type of AI-ness are you utilizing? Asana has AI. Let's see. We have Loom has AI as well. So there are lots and lots when it comes to AI in terms of all the features. What is it? Claude is another one. I think I've heard of something called, what is it? DeepSeek? DeepSeek? Is it DeepSeek? Yeah, I think it's called DeepSeek. Canva has AI. There's a lot. And so we want to examine tonight a couple of things. Like why would a project manager, why am I saying to you it's time to move from the person that is utilizing the tool to the person that is going to now create governance and create strategy around the tool? Why am I saying this? Well, here's the thing. What I'm saying is that we need to be transitioning to what we're thinking about in terms of the tools we use to how we protect our work. Because nowadays, we need to be able to say that our work is ethical, that our work is the best that we can do. And here's the thing, there's a lot of risk with AI. There is inconsistent information. There's bias in data. There's corrupt data. There's a lot of things that we have to consider. And I think that it is super, super important to note that. Okay. I think that we have to, and well, I believe, I'm going to stand on this. I truly believe that the way in which we are viewing AI and how we can future-proof our work is if we have a governance model, if we have policy around how we are utilizing these tools. So is it enough to just plop something in ChatGPT and say, this is accurate? I'm going to go and use this. I'm going to implement this into the project. I'm going to present this to my client. I'm going to present this to my CEO. I'm going to use this in my presentation to thousands and thousands of people. We have to think about that. Are there inconsistencies? Is the data right? Ethically, where do we stand on utilizing AI? Should we use it to draft a whole ebook? Should we use it to draft a whole presentation and to utilize it in such a way to say, hey, this is my work? Now, I think personally, everybody has to ask that question. Number one, how am I going to use AI moving forward? Now, some of you all might be utilizing right now and you're like, okay, Ashley, I'm using it for project planning. I'm using it for my tasks. I'm using it for making decisions. But even with that, and we'll talk about decision making next week, how we're utilizing AI for decision making. Because now we're taking it from, wow, I can wordsmith, which is just fine. You know, use a little Chat GPT or Claude or Google Gemini because you want to wordsmith it up. But what about when it comes down to making decisions? So we have to begin to think about that. I hope that we're following everything that we're saying here tonight when it comes to AI, when it comes to creating policy. Because some of you all might be thinking, well, so what, Ashley? Well, see, here's where I stand on this. And I think from the outsider's perspective, there's a lot of innovation, new invention, new services. There are things that are being produced. We're talking about products. We're talking about services. We're talking about books and podcasts and things of that nature. There's work that is being done. And I believe that if you believe in the work that you're doing, You want to do a great job. You want to, well, not even just a great job. You want to put forth a work of excellence. You got to think about how that would affect your reputation. How does utilizing AI, relying on AI, how does it validate what is it that you're creating and producing? Let me say that one more time. How does what you are creating, what you're producing, how does that validate what you're doing? What do we mean by that? So when you use Claude, when you use Google Gemini, when you use ChatGPT, how is that validating the work that you're doing? How does that actually enhance what you're doing? And so if it's important enough in terms of what you write, what you produce, your ideas, then I would say I believe it's super important that we look at how AI policies can future proof our work. And no better way to do that would be to create policy around how we're going to utilize it in our day to day. Let's think about hiring people. You're hiring a copywriter. You have a copywriter on your team. You have marketers and creators and graphic designers and things of that nature. You have these people on your team. And so when they are starting to utilize these tools and these platforms, do you have any restrictions? Have you ever thought about that? So these are some of the questions that I have, because for me, I have a long history. Well, not necessarily like super long, but I've been on this journey of really discovering in real time, how do I feel about utilizing these AI tools in my work? From utilizing ChatGPT for research, or Claude for, some wordsmithing, to using Fathom as or Zoom AI, right? Zoom AI has the action items in the summary, to utilizing Miro Assist to help generate more ideas. How do I feel about utilizing these particular platforms? How do they impact my work? Am I less of an original thinker because I use AI? Do I feel more productive? Sure. I saw a email from a really good content creator. His name is Joe Casabona. Brilliant. He's a systems coach in the podcasting space and other places as well. But he was talking about using this tool called the Whisper app, which for me, I think it's brilliant. You download the Whisper app. It's in the iOS store. What you do is you go and you basically start to talk. If you're a talker like me, I got a lot of ideas all of the time. And so what I do is I will have an idea and I'll just talk. I'll talk for 5 minutes. I'll talk for 8 minutes at a time, and I'll just start to talk. And it transcribes it for you. And what it does too, I'll put it in the ChatGPT or Claude, and I'll say, hey, could you summarize what I'm thinking? So in his email he sent out, he even said at the bottom that he used AI to create the email, which I thought was brilliant, because how many people are utilizing AI and didn't think to say, hey, I use AI to write some of this. So we have some ethical considerations. We have some legal implications when we're talking about AI. And I believe this is super important. So I want to transition us to talk about what are some of the key tensions when we talk about utilizing AI in our work. So for project managers, I want to zero in on the work that we're doing every single day, which is we're meeting with people. So we're meeting with our team members. We are producing dashboards. We're getting data. We're making decisions. We're doing all types of things, right? Depending on industry and what you're doing. But we are leading the work. We are driving the work. We are executing the work. And it's a lot at times, right? It's a lot to keep up with. So hearing how AI can help us do the mundane quicker, faster, more efficiently sounds really good, and it is. But when we start getting to the finer points where we talk about what's being produced, the output, we're talking about deliverables, we're talking about decisions, we're talking about the things that have more eyes on them. Now, for me, I don't think anything's wrong with you go and utilize these tools. Maybe, it's for research, it's for, you want to enhance something, you want to figure some things out. More power to you. But as I started to think through utilizing these different tools, I started to think to myself, what if there's some data and privacy issues? So as we start to gather and start to piece together the tension between how we utilize AI from a consumer perspective and from a, hey, I want to be efficient perspective, our shift now goes into what type of policy should we have in place that protects our work? Because it's all fun and games until someone says, well, that's nice, but it sounds like you utilize AI, or it doesn't sound like it is your authentic self. And I think we have to peel back the layers of that, because I hear a lot of AI specialists or AI, the people who are, and not just the folks that are crowning themselves AI kings and queens, but I'm talking about it from a branding and marketing perspective. I hear a lot about your voice. I kind of think it's a little weird that we want to train a machine to know our voice. That's just my take. But we have a lot of emphasis on, I needed to think like me, I needed to sound like me, I needed to perform tasks like me. And I have to say that I don't necessarily want any AI-ness to be like me, to sound like me, or do any of those things. That's just my take. Because your thoughts, your strategy, the way you lead a meeting, the way you lead a project, the way you are executing your work, the way you create strategy, that's all you. I don't know any language learning model. Hey, now, I feel like that is a, what do you call it, silver dollar word? Is it LMM, language learning model? I don't know any language learning model that is supposed to be you. So this is where we start to gain an understanding of, how is it that we can ethically use this tool in a way that we know validates what we do, that is still able to ensure that the work that we do is us at the end of the day. So what are some key tensions? Because I started to talk about the key tensions, and then I kind of went this way and that way. So what should we consider, right? What should we consider? What should we start to really think through when we're utilizing AI? Ethical and bias concerns. Who has some ethical concerns about AI? Make sure that you put them in the chat, because I'd love to know, what are some ethical concerns that you may have about AI? What type of ethical concerns do you have on AI? I think that's really important to know. And write a few of these things down, because I think as you begin to think through this, it will help you to better understand, okay, this is how I should be thinking about the ethics behind AI. Okay. And I think it's a good thing. So make sure that you guys take some notes. Make sure you guys share this with, 5 to 6 people, so that we can understand that, right? So, and when we talk about, the ethics. We're talking about being responsible for the use of AI. Okay. And I believe every team, every department, every agency should really look at, all right, how responsible are we with AI? How responsive are we? You know what I'm saying? I hope that makes a lot of sense. Transparent and also the bias. Let's talk about the bias, because to my knowledge, I don't know who's behind these little machines. Let's be clear. Who is behind these little machines? I saw a 60 Minutes report where they were talking about, they were in Kenya, and some of these big companies were hiring people at, like, I don't know, pennies to the dollar to like go and like mine through information. Okay. So I don't know what's being created and who's behind it, and I don't know. I'm just gonna be completely honest, because I'm on this journey learning. Okay, I'm just learning. I don't know who is tip tapping behind the screen with ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and everybody. I don't know if somebody is in a dorm room. I don't know if they are at Waffle House. I don't know where these people are. Okay. So I'm just being very, very honest. I don't know. But when we talk about bias, we're talking about the way in which the data is skewed, the information is skewed in a way that is harmful to people. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about bias with AI. That's what we're talking about. So I just want to center that so we can understand. Me, if any of these companies are paying somebody pennies to the dollar, me, I'm having a problem with it. But again, I'm just saying, I don't know. But think about the ethics and the bias behind it, right? Transparency and explainability. Okay. I think this is an important note. How transparent is this information? Is it something that can be explainable? I think that's super important to note, that piece of it. Yeah, it's super important, right? If you have any questions, put them in the chat, because I think what we want to do is make sure that, yeah, we're learning together. Because one thing that I think is super important that we want to think about when it comes to this aspect of like transparency and explainability, so to speak, which is like how are we interpreting these results? How are we doing that? What's the algorithm? Like, the algorithm can have inaccurate results, right? It also can be erroneous. Some of these large algorithms don't provide insight into how they arrived at these results. So where did this information come from? Right? Where did the information come from is the question. This is just me. I just want to put these things out there, people. I just want to put these, because we got to make it make sense, right? It's 2025. We're not in the I don't know culture. I don't know where you're being hired to do a work, right? Whether you're freelance, you got an agency, you're in corporate, we got to be thinking about these things. We can't just say, thank goodness we got Fathom. Thank goodness we got these AI tools, and just use them. Just use them without, and just with a click of a button. We have to think critically about it. Okay. Data privacy and security. I heard a lot about this. I heard some people have a lot of concerns with personal information inside of ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Claude, and then some of these other spaces that we're in. Thank you so much, Ashley. I know for me, I am not putting any information that is deemed personal. will I put in some information like a transcript from this live stream and run it through Descript or run it through, where are we going to run it through? ChatGPT. Sure. But am I going to put banking information? Am I going to put information from a Zoom call that, or maybe, well, let me back that up. Because I think we should be honest about what we're recording these days as well. Not everything, sometimes you don't always have to have everything recorded. That's all I'm trying to say. But we want to make sure that we are doing it. You know what I'm saying? We want to make sure you're doing it. Yes, you're right. You're pointing out the negative sides of artificial intelligence. Yes, but there's also positive sides, right? And we're going to get to that because that's why we want to future-proof our work. Okay. And so we'll dive into the positive effects because it is. You can do things like, be more productive. I'm not saying, because ClickUp Brain is great. Like all of these things are great, but how do we take the ethical piece of what we're doing to make sure that we are future proofing our work? Okay, cool. Let's see what else I was going to say. Data and privacy. So we just want to make sure you're keeping your data safe. Okay. And so we want to make sure that you're not putting personal company information in, right? Like, so these are some of the things that we just want to highlight because again, when we get into the steps to develop AI policy, this is what you're going to do so that you can be able to utilize these tools in a way that is going to really help you think. All right. And be able to say, hey, this is how I'm going to future-proof my work. Skills gap in training. So we need training on AI. How to use ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, ClickUp Brain, Asana AI, Mira Assist. All of these things you need training, and you need a champion. I'm a huge proponent of utilizing champions, assigning people to be champions of this work. Okay. I think this is really important. So this person will be in charge of the training. This person will be in charge of making sure that people know how to use these tools. So for instance, I wish I was a part of an organization that uses Microsoft Copilot. That's something that I wish I could utilize. Why? Because I think Microsoft Copilot has some really interesting tools to use. And you can use it within Word, Excel, what else? PowerPoint, Teams, I think. So yeah, so you can utilize these tools. So you need someone who's going to train people on how to utilize these tools because oftentimes, I know in the beginning stages, I would just like write something and then it would spit out something. Huh? And so I would say, all right, well, I'm done. But I had to learn that it's all in the prompts. It's all in the prompts to get what you want. So skills, gaps, and training needs, that might need to be a part of your policy. You might want to have something where, you have monthly or bi-weekly training on a particular AI tool. Resistance to change. Again, right now we're really going through all of the different tensions. There are about 7 of them. So there's resistance to change. We have right now in our current workforce, we have the boomers, we have the millennials, we have Gen X, Gen Z, we have the millennials. We got a whole hodgepodge of people that are working together. So some people are like, listen, I have been creating PowerPoints since 1955. Okay. Why would I want to ideate? Why would I want to utilize ChatGPT and some of these platforms like Gemini and maybe what's that other one I'm using? It's called Pitch App. You can use an AI generated template. That can help you just get started. So let me tell you, these are the types of things where you as a PM should be thinking about. Or if you're in a leadership position, a higher leadership position, you're going to want to think about, man, demographically, who do we have? And how do we help people embrace the change and pull down the walls so they're not resisting the change? Who understands that? Who's with me on that? Come on, who's with me on that? Over reliance on AI. This is something we're going to have to deal with in our policy. Are we using AI for every thought, every idea, every step, and everything that we produce? Is that what we're doing? So we are going to have to balance out, because again, this is about how we're utilizing AI as a tool that we can use to actually better validate our work, and so that the work that we do is future proof, right? And honestly, when it comes to all of these tools, I just like to stay in my little pocket of AI-ness, right? I don't necessarily go out to go and find all these different tools. I like to read about them. Now, there's one tool that I want to definitely dive into. It's called Granola. I love that it's named after something I would like to eat. I think that's great. Granola, that sounds very yummy. So I think that's the meeting app. And then there was something else. Granola. What is Granola? Oops. Granola app. Hold on. Oh, it's the AI notepad for meetings, and you don't have to have one of those bots to go in. And then there was another one where it was a Superhuman app. I've always wanted to, utilize Superhuman, but it's kind of, for me, it's a bit expensive. It'll cost you the pricing. It's an email platform. So if you're a starter, you can you use it for like $30 a month. And I don't necessarily have a deep need for something like that. So let's walk through the 7 areas, the 7 key tensions of what we're looking at when it comes to AI: ethical and bias concerns, transparency and explainability, data, privacy and security, integration with existing systems, skills gaps and training needs, resistance to change, and over-reliance on AI. All right, does any of these resonate with you all? Just wanted to put that in the chat. Does any of this resonate with you? Because I'd love to know. I'd love to know. So now I want to dive into how do you develop AI policy? And there's multiple steps to do this. And I would suggest take your time in doing it. Take your time in doing it, because when you start to develop policy, it's not something that's overnight. It's a team sport. So one of the first things that you're want to do is you want to pull together a working group. That could be 2, 3, 4 people within your team. It could be the team itself. It could be people who are on other teams, like across departments. So it could just be people that have interest in AI and that represent different walks of life when it comes to the work that you do inside your company, business, organization, and within your team. So that's what you're going to want to do. You want to gather the people together, and you want to define the scope of the work group. So you want to talk about what exactly will you cover, because you can't, it doesn't make sense to cover like everything. Like you need an expansive policy for like everything, right? You don't need that, because depending on your sector, depending on the work that you're doing, it all depends. But you're going to want to ask yourself, okay, what is it that we're looking to do as a group? Okay, like what is it that we're looking to produce when we talk about developing AI policy? So we're talking about, what from a customer service perspective, we want to cover these topics. From a writing perspective, we want to, cover these. From a marketing perspective, from a technology perspective. So you want to begin to think about what are the policy objectives in terms of adopting AI that you want to consider especially when you're formulating this working group. You want to also get everybody on the same page of ethics. Like, what do we consider to be ethical when it comes to the use of AI? And so developing solid ethical foundation for AI policy is essential. So look at it from the perspective of fairness, transparency, accountability, and overall human well-being. So that's what we want to do when we look at it from that perspective. We want to make sure that we are addressing ethics from that perspective. When we're looking at it from a fairness perspective, a transparency perspective, accountability. What else do you want to consider after you formulated the work group, you have looked at the scope in which you are going to focus on? You also want to also consider, is this for employees only or remote workers? Or, how does it all fit? How should artificial intelligence be represented? That's a great question. That's something to gather the people to talk about. You want to understand the legal and regulatory compliance around AI. So you want to know from data protection laws, privacy regulations, and industry-specific guidelines. For my content creators out there, do we have an AI policy that's an industry standard for the content that you create? I'm talking to my podcasters. I'm talking to the lifestyle content creators. I'm talking about you all. If you're in the federal government, what is the AI policy around the work that you are looking at? From a legal and ethical perspective, what's the industry standard in which you're utilizing it for research, for writing, for using it for project-based work? What do we know about data and privacy? What should we be looking at in terms of the landscape? These are heavy, heavy questions that are not going to be solved in one meeting. You also should look at potential use cases and risks of utilizing AI. So here's the balance of it, people. What are the AI use cases that you're going to be utilizing AI for your team, your department, or for your company? How and what are the use cases for that? What are the risks of utilizing AI? So we're talking about it from the perspective of security vulnerabilities, potential biases. When will AI be used from a use case perspective? Who will use it? For what purpose will it be used? Questions that we should consider when developing AI policy. Who will be responsible for developing it? Oh, did you think that the work group had to develop it? I think it's a yes and no, depending on the makeup of your group. But there should be defined roles and responsibilities for monitoring how we're utilizing AI, ethical decision making. How do we utilize AI for ethical decision making, and risk management? And lastly, what we want to do, or the last two things, is we want to encourage continuous monitoring and evaluation of how the team, the department, the business, the company is utilizing AI. We want to figure out, hey, what's working, what's not working. Super important. And lastly, communicating AI policy to your team, your department, your company, your business. So that's going to be instrumental of how you go about rolling it out. All right, everyone. That is all that I have today. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Systems Lab Live. We have had a ball talking about all things AI. Most importantly, we're going from the project managers that We utilize the tool to help us get the work done, to help us get it done efficiently and effectively. To the ones that are taking the role of, how do I utilize it ethically, responsibly, to future proof my work? So that's all that we have here today. Make sure you share this live stream with about 5 to 6 to 7 to 10 people. Also, in my direct messages, tell me, how did you like this particular lesson? You could also leave a comment too, either or. And I look forward to talking to you guys next week as we talk about AI in decision making. And then later on, we'll have a little bit of fun. We'll go through some of my favorite tools. I'm going to pick out a few that have really caught my eye in terms of how you can utilize it to enhance your project work. But that's all we got. Thank you guys so much. And thank you, Anisha, for tuning in, and everybody that was on Instagram that tuned in. We thank you so much. Bye.